joy, Ruhigisha Gihana, and I am the founder of Family Life and Beyond. I am a mental health and family psychotherapist, and I have a deep-seated passion to empower individuals, to empower couples, families, parents, and communities at large. So the first topic is how to build a healthy relationship with yourself. The reason why I think building a good, healthy relationship with yourself is really vitally important is because people come and go in our lives, but we are always stuck with ourselves. So I think building that relationship with yourself is really important because you're always going to be with yourself. Another very good reason why I think building a healthy relationship with yourself is important is because the nature of the relationship I have with myself or you have with yourself will set the standard of all the other relationships you have with your partners, your friends, your children, your parents, and your co-workers even. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to build a relationship with yourself. Now, I have so many clients that come in and they are, for example, struggling with depression or anxiety, or they're even struggling with, connecting with their loved ones, or they have low self-esteem issues, or they are struggling with self-confidence issues and stuff like that. And, the more I talk to them, somehow they realize that, actually, even though I'm having symptoms of, say, for example, depression, or I'm having, symptoms of anxiety, but really the root cause of all this is because there is a disconnect between me and me, right? And so that's why I really think that that it is important to really have that connection with yourself. Now, our understanding of self-love, or our understanding of really a connection between me and me, is learned during childhood. This is where it starts from. In our childhood, we learn to, I really want to believe that childhood is the birthplace of loving yourself and learning to love other people, of trusting yourself and trusting other people, of even respecting yourself and respecting other people. We learn these things through the relationships that we have with our parental figures, or the adults in our lives that are assuming that role of taking care of us. And that relationship that we have with them will determine how we're gonna will determine the relationship we will have with us. And this is very taught on a very subconscious level. I don't know any parent who sits down and teaches their child to have a low sense of their self-worth. They don't sit them down and say that to them, but it's in the way they talk to them. It is in the way they really treat them. The three deepest need of any child is to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued, and to know that they matter no matter what. Now, most parents love their kids, and they will do their best to provide for their kids, to support them in the best way that they know how to. But unfortunately, the unfortunate reality is that not all parents have the capacity to really connect with their kids on that emotional level, to create those safe spaces where a child is going to feel really seen, heard, and valued, because it's a skill that you learn. And at least from my own experiences, given my background, where I grew up from, where my parents grew up from, there is intergenerational trauma. So when that happens, and when you we experience trauma as kids or even growing up, and that trauma never gets to be addressed, what happens is that we carry on, we live life with the trauma and we pass it on. So if my mom experienced trauma at one point in her life, then she will pass that on. She will pass on the baton, unconsciously, subconsciously. And so, which is why, again, we're having these conversations so that we can even be aware that, there is such a thing as intergenerational trauma. If not healed, the cycle will keep repeating itself. So, what is really self-love? I know I've heard people talk about, self self acceptance. I don't really like the word self acceptance because I feel like it's me settling for things the way they are. But really, self love is, or having an understanding of who you are and really falling in love with yourself, is quite radical. So you really have to almost do a lot of internal work and come to a place of just falling in love with, with whatever that person is. And so self-love may not be, I mean, it could mean grooming yourself and, wearing, fancy clothes and making yourself up. Well, that could be part of self-love. But really, self-love is showing up for yourself, is extending kindness and compassion and grace to the person that you are, no matter who they are. It is really taking time to understand, who am I? What do I represent? What are some of my values? What are some of my core beliefs? What are some of my triggers? Be aware of even your thoughts and how those thoughts interact with your emotions and how those emotions ultimately affect the way you behave. Another piece of understanding self-love is, understanding your inner child. We all have an inner child in us, and like I said, depending on how your childhood was, depending on your experiences, that inner child is going to be either a healthy inner child or a wounded inner child. So a wounded inner child is one that, experienced, different types of, abuses as a child. Could have been physical abuse, could have been sexual, it could have been emotional abuse, it could have been emotional neglect. You know how you have both parents in your life. Physically they are there, they're working so hard to provide for you, but they're emotionally removed. So that is emotional abandonment or emotional neglect. So when these things happen as a child, kids will start to form stories of who they are, about, like, basically they'll start to form, or their brain is going to start to tell them stories about who they are, and they will start to believe certain things about who they are. So for example, if you grew up in a home where you were neglected, you were abandoned, you're physically, emotionally, verbally and sexually abused, you grow up to actually believe that you're not good enough, you're not a lovable person, because the people that could have loved you the most somehow did not show up for you. And because as a child, kids do not have the intellectual ability to rationalize things. So when you say things to them the way you say them, the way you put them, they will tend to take things at face values and internalize them and personalize them. So if a parent does not create that safe space to allow the child to process these things and make sense of them as a child, they may be interpreted in a different way, and they may end up forming or contributing to how they really see themselves. So in my next video, I will go ahead and share with you how you can take baby steps towards really the self-love or the self-discovery journey, and how you can really practically create that relationship with yourself. So this episode was really about understanding what it means to even be in love with yourself, because that's a question I normally get from my clients, from friends, from family. What does it mean to really create or uh, build that relationship with yourself? I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you have any questions, any thoughts, do not hesitate to direct message me or share your comments below. And yeah, thank you. Bye now.